no one has protested that it's sacrilegious. I mean, if you take the Bible literally, Methuselah lived 969 years, and a lot of the early biblical figures lived centuries. So there wasn't any problem with that in terms of eternity. Another 1,000 years, more or less, really is just a blink of an eye.
And what do you think about the globalists and the people who are against population growth? This is an antithetical model, I guess, in thinking for that.
Well, a more serious population problem is reproduction. The people living longer doesn't create as great a population growth as reproduction does.
That's a good point.
But so that could be where the emphasis is. But on the other hand, at one time it was believed that there was the iron law of wages that said that population could never increase, or that there could never be economic improvement because the population would always increase every time there's a gain in productivity, but that just hasn't happened. Productivity has outstripped population in the developed world, maybe not the undeveloped world, but I think technology can solve all sorts of problems. I mean, the people who get involved in this are ones who believe in the capacity of technology to solve problems. Obviously, if technology can solve the problems of aging and death, technology can solve the problems of population, overpopulation, of pollution in particular, and production of food and resources and medicines. There's no, there's really the world actually has a lot of space. The oceans are uninhabited. There's vast uninhabited regions of our continents, and space has a vast amount of living space.
Actually, I was told by somebody who passed away a few months ago that you could take all the people in the world and fit them in Texas.
Well, you could fit them all. You could fit them all in a cubic mile in the Grand Canyon too. It'd be kind of crowded, but
yeah. But I'm just to get a perspective of how much space there is. He told me.
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. Well,
it's interesting. So back to cryonics. Somebody.
If you build higher and higher skyscrapers too, you can crowd a lot more people into a smaller space.
True. Okay, so somebody has their heart has stopped, and they have a legal cryonics order. What happens? Take us through the process.
Well, ideally, there's a team standing there that is going to place that person in an ice bath and to cool them as quickly as possible. Ice water will cool much more quickly than ice cubes. It's greater thermal conductivity, and then you apply a heart-lung machine of some kind, which will basically the same effect of artificial CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. You can ventilate the person. So in that case, there's no 6 minutes elapse anyway. You're acting really almost instantaneously. So people worry about the 6 minute limit. That doesn't apply in this case because you're starting the circulation again to keep the cells alive, and also you're cooling to slow the metabolism. And as I say, every 10 degrees you cool, you cut the metabolic rate in half, which cuts any degradation in half. And then as you get, and then that's an exponential cooling process. Exponential process of reduced metabolism as you cool further, and then when you get down to around 10 degrees Celsius, then you can replace the person's. We do surgery and cannulate the vessels. In our case, we try to cannulate the carotids and the jugulars, or the anyway, the carotids, or we go in through the aorta. In any case, we try to replace, especially in the brain, we try to replace the water with this antifreeze solution. And then once that's accomplished, then we put the person into a cooling box. We don't just drop them in liquid nitrogen. And under computer control, we cool them down to liquid nitrogen temperature in such a way as to minimize thermal stress, but at the same time cool quickly in the first part to reduce the effect of any cryoprotectant toxicity. And then once the person's at liquid nitrogen temperature, and that process takes nearly a week, then we place them in liquid nitrogen in these big thermos bottle-like containers that basically they're like a thermos bottle. They've got the patients and the liquid nitrogen in the middle, like keeping coffee warm. In this case, keeping cold with a vacuum around it, as in a thermos bottle, to provide the best insulation. We use actually a vacuum and perlite. And so they're completely, the process is completely passive. It's not if there's a power failure, there's no electricity relied on in this case. If there's a power failure, it doesn't affect us because we're using this liquid nitrogen coolant. And so hopefully and then every week for our efficient cryostats, we top them off with more liquid nitrogen. And as I say, we can spend about $100 a year keeping a person cryopreserved. And most people, it's not cheap. It's the very least you can pay is about $30,000. But most people just buy a life insurance policy and name us as the beneficiary of the policy. So, they don't. It isn't as if they have to have the money in their pockets.
And I understand that there's only a few people in the country who have a niche to sell that. There are several companies that will provide the insurance, but there's very few people who actually sell it as a niche. Am I correct or incorrect?
Well, there's one guy in particular who's made it his specialty. So he may be driving the others off the market. He's really very good. Rudy Hoffman in Florida. And he sells about 85% of the insurance policies. I mean, that's because when people come to us and say, "What agents do we use?" and we send them to him. But we've got one of our directors also sells insurance, and there's Jim Yunt with the American Cryonics Society, also is an insurance agent. So there's others. It's just that one guy seems to have done such a good job and had gotten so much expertise at this that he's basically captured the largest part of the market.
I think it's interesting that the insurance companies will do it. I would imagine it's cheaper for them than life insurance policies, isn't it?
I'm not understanding what.
Well, I mean, it
is life insurance policy.
It is a life insurance policy.
It's a life insurance policy that names the Cryonics organization as a beneficiary, and it's just they don't lose money on the deal, and just because we don't regard them as dead, the people who make cryonics arrangements don't live any less long than other people on average, and if anything, they probably live longer because they tend to want to really cling to life anyway, and so they tend to be more health conscious by and large. And so it's actually good. The insurance companies actually have a good deal with selling life insurance to cryonics people.
Very interesting. And are the people, when they go into these vacuum tubes, are they undressed, or do they have any type of material that they're wearing?
We put them in a sleeping bag. Partly as padding, just protection, so they don't. Aren't bumping up against things and so forth. It's protective, and they're tied to a board. They're not just flopping around. that we put them in upside down with their head down.